top 5 ways to ruin your trip. So the things you don't want to do. These are mostly about attitude, actions. One is pretty practical. It's a little broad.
Just a little.
This is by USA Today. They actually had 4, and then I also added what my personal number 1 way to ruin a trip. I thought these were definitely worthwhile.
All right, well, I'll give it my best shot.
The practical one has to do a little bit with a flight I messed up early on.
In your
In my
traveling
travels.
days, double check your dates before you book.
So I'm going to go and give that one to you. It's no all the fine print. But they mentioned in USA Today, knowing what the fine print is, because we always skip over this, but there are a lot of people who just assume, oh, well, if I change my plans, I can cancel this hotel and get a refund, and just kind of assume that it will work out however they want.
We definitely saw that when we took Spirit Airlines for the first time. Typically, people expect checked luggage for 50 pounds, and Spirit Airlines, their limit was 40 pounds. So people were showing up to the airport thinking they got 50 pounds of luggage that they paid for, because you have to pay for bags on Spirit, but they didn't read the fine print, and that's a really easy way to start things off a little bit rough.
Little extra $100 surcharge or more.
Yeah.
Not
It's
a
just
great
not
way to
fun. Well, that is a good one in so many different ways and areas, from train tickets to flights to everything else. Okay, so
Number
the rest
5.
of these are more like mindset. The first thing that's coming to mind, I'm not exactly sure how to like phrase it, but it has to do with like expectations.
Go on.
Okay.
There's a couple that could follow this vein.
Having this like perfect image in your head of how you want things to go, and then just like crashing out when things don't go according to that picture you have. Because just because you're traveling doesn't mean you're outside of the realm of how the world works and how things just happen sometimes. That's so broad, I know.
It's very broad. I'm going to give you number 2 for that one. So number 2 is being entitled. It is just kind of assuming things will go well, assuming everyone around you will speak English and understand you, and assuming people will cater to you and things will just go well for you. And that's kind of the vein you were going on. Being entitled is definitely a way to shatter your own expectations quickly, because it's not going to work that way. And then it's just going to go poorly for your trip. One of them has to do with how you interact with people, and one of them has to do with how you interact with locations. So do people act the same when they travel versus when they don't? Well,
I do.
I'm not saying for you. I'm
You're-
saying
Well, it's hard for me
as
to
a
know.
general rule.
It's hard
What
for me
we
to
have
know
s-
what other people are thinking when I only have my brain.
What we have seen or heard of other travelers.
Are you talking about the whole American thing? The reputation American tourists have overseas, where they are loud and arrogant.
And how does that impact the people around them?
Personally, I think they're just not thinking. It's like they aren't taking the time beforehand to think through how their actions or their words are affecting the people around them.
There you go. Number 4 is lacking empathy. Basically just not caring about other travelers, not caring about local people or hospitality staff. We recently had a waitress tell us she had been snapped at by some people at a restaurant, and just over here. It's just not being empathetic. You see this all the time. People that are on an airplane and the person behind them has their feet up on the armrests in the seat between them. That is a great way to ruin a trip for you and everybody around you.
And you're seeing that more and more often, especially with people acting out on airplanes and them having to land early and kick people off because they're upset about just the most minor things and are allowing that to blow way out of proportion.
We talked earlier about being entitled. There is a bleed over from being entitled to having a lack of empathy, because it's about me and I can do what I want and who cares about anybody else. Think of news articles you've probably seen about bad tourists in locations. What are things you think of?
Being disrespectful of the local site, either with graffiti or climbing up on things you're not supposed to climb up on, or driving a Ferrari down the Spanish Steps. Or if you look at Google reviews of places, people have the most insane expectations, like a 1 star because there was clouds and I couldn't see the mountain view and the hotel staff wouldn't do anything about it. And it's like, where is the brain in situations like that?
This one falls under being rude.
Okay.
So just being rude, whether it's mistreating a local landmark, like you said, or if it's just kind of being demeaning to the culture about the food or customs, just being rude in general, trying the national dish and saying, well, I mean, it's kind of gross. It doesn't taste anything like the food back home.
Right, right in front of the waiters and the people who prepared it. Even if they don't speak the same language as you, people understand tone and they understand gestures and they understand when they're being disrespected.
Don't be rude.
Don't be rude.
My number one rule to avoid having a bad trip, the most important thing I think anybody needs to think about whenever they are getting ready to travel.
Oh, a lack of awareness.
Lack of awareness.
Yeah.
You're circling it.
A lack of situational awareness, but then also a lack of realizing that you are going someplace different and new. Not taking the time even to get to know some of those things. There's really no excuse. There's so many resources out there for you to at least get a base understanding of some of these just different, like, cultural differences, food differences.
My number one travel rule, be intentional.
Yeah.
Be intentional before you go. It's so easy to, like you said, it's so easy to learn a few things about it. But even if you don't have the time for that, once you are there, just look around, see what is normal there, and don't assume what you're used to is what is there, because it's probably not, right? You're going to a different country, different culture. Even if it's something similar, there's going to be nuances that are very different. I had a guy that was a teacher of mine when I was a kid. He would always say, don't be stupid. It is really easy for smart people when they travel to be stupid. And what I mean by that is to just assume, well, I know how things work, so I'm good to go.
Yeah, there's a lot of things about traveling that are a lot like being a little kid again, where you have to kind of learn these things that, you back at home, you know how to drive, you know how to cross the street, you know how to order food, you know what the process for the queue at the checkout is. But those things vary widely depending on what country you're in. And so there's a lot of this I have no idea how to do this, how to function in this. And so you just kind of look around and you can figure it out if you're paying attention.
Everybody is at risk whenever they travel to someplace for the first time or the second time or any time, really.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you travel, you are at risk. I'm not saying you're going to be stupid. What is stupid is going and not trying to figure it out, not making the effort to understand and being intentional with figuring out, hey, here's how I need to act in this new context. Because as we both know, context is
king.
Anybody can avoid this if they just have a little intentionality.
If you've been to 20, 30 countries, you can start to get a little bit into that mindset of like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I've got this, that sort of thing. And even if you go to some place that you've been to before, like if that's not your native culture, there are always going to be things that you can learn and observe.
I would make the argument that anytime you travel to a culture that is not your native culture, the default is to be stupid unless you make the intentional effort to not be. But I'm saying we all have the potential for it if we're not intentional. And so the number one way, in my opinion, to ruin a trip is to be stupid. Number 2 is to be entitled. Number 3 is to be rude. Number 4 is to lack empathy. And number 5 is to skip the fine print. If there's anything that you have thought of that should be on this list, let us know. And until then,